This is the final report on Reed's case, number 637. It was a lower first molar with no radiographic irregularities, but it was a fractured tooth apparently. No real periapical symptoms on either the periapical or the cone beam. Everything looked pretty much within normal limits. And when Reed went into the case, it was vital when he went into it. And he instrumented both the mesial and distal canals and got really good pictures of the fracture. He went ahead and instrumented the case. This is his MTI form. It was an irreversible pulpitis. Nothing unusual on the diagnosis page except a fracture. And these are his treatment notes using the laser. It was a Fotana case. Using a series of irrigants, sodium hypochlorite, Triton from Brasler, using the sweeps technique, relatively minimal type of instrumentation using pro-taper golds, and also using the Brasler's Triton EDTA distilled water Q mix, and using a short pulse or PIPS technique with both Triton and distilled water. After he did the treatment, he had it extracted the next day. I got the tooth in pieces. It was fractured during extraction, so there was quite a bit of bleeding into the canals. I wasn't sure we'd get anything worth looking at, but when I actually sectioned the pieces, tried to section them sagittally, I did get some views of the naked canal wall, so we'd get some sense of what this irrigation protocol is actually able to do, we looked where there wasn't any blood from the extraction. So it actually does give us a sense of what the Fotana and the irrigation protocol used can actually do with the canal. And when we went in and actually spent about 4 hours looking at the canals in this tooth, and they looked really incredibly clean. There's the sputter-coated samples. And I looked at about 7 areas. I won't review them all because we looked at most of them during the preliminary report. But I think it's worth noting, since we've looked at quite a few other cases, and you usually see a lot of instrumentation debris and a smear layer, a lot of pre-dentin present. And in this case, there was no smear layer anywhere that I looked. And no pre-dentin really, maybe a few little pieces here and there of pre-dentin that hadn't been demineralized and flushed away. And the mineralization front showed a partial demineralization where you could see the collagen framework of the dentin very, very well. So I was very surprised with the look of this case, how clean it was and how free from debris. In no areas was I able to detect a single bacterial cell anywhere that I looked. So from my perspective, it's in all the areas that we looked, it was completely bacterial free, and dental instrumentation debris free as well. Very, very little debris. It's kind of what you'd like your cases to look like. So I don't know if it's the irrigation sequence that he used or the materials that he used, but there was really very little defects from the demineralization. There you can see part of the mineralization front is intact and part of it is being demineralized, but it's actually looks like a very gentle demineralization because the peritubular dentin was still intact everywhere that I looked. So the peritubular dentin had not been demineralized, and in prior cases, that's the first thing to be demineralized. So it gives the appearance of a very gentle kind of demineralization taking place. And in many areas, you see a mineralization front that's just completely free of smear layer with very minimal demineralization taking place. So a very nice result I would categorize in this one case. It would be nice to look at more cases with this irrigation protocol. And even in areas where there was more demineralization, more coronally here, but even here, uh, uh, the peridental tubules are intact. You can't see any of the intertubular dentin. So the peritubular dentin was not affected. And this is the area where Rick and I were talking about where it looked like you had that pulsed kind of look to the laser. And I don't know if this was actually from the laser or whether it's from the instrumentation. So that's the case.